You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Presented by Bet365, it's time for the Wednesday edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill, as per usual, with you. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase, all in capitals as well. Today, it's Nick Alberga and Rosie. What's going on, Rosie?
Ooh, Vicky wanted to give me a little peekaboo there. I like that. It's game day, baby. I am ready for tonight, man. I've kind of been looking at this for a little while. I'm like, when do we play Florida? When do we play Florida? And here we go.
Undoubtedly, this is a game you circle on your calendar for a variety of reasons. For like half the Maple Leafs roster, we understand why they won the Stanley Cup with the Florida Panthers last year. I'm most looking forward to the revenge aspect, right? With Lorentz, with Stolars, with OEL.
Yeah, I mean, that's a storyline for sure. Cool for them to go back. It's not just a regular return. It's a return where you just won the Stanley Cup, which is a pretty big deal. So big night for those guys. I hope, you're just going to run into a bunch of people underneath the stadium, down by the locker rooms and whatnot that you know, a lot of highs and handshakes. Good to see you. Who gives a shit? I don't really care about that. I'm like, how do the Leafs stack up to this team? And they're the big dogs in the Atlantic right now. They're above Boston, above Tampa, they're above Florida. They're skidding a little bit. Like, is this kind of the beginning of a changing of the guard? Is this the Leafs' time? Is this just, the flows and the ebbs and flows of the season? I'm interested to see how they stack up, and like a convincing 60-minute, honest, solid defensive effort that just the Panthers can't get anything going, shut them down, win 3-1. I mean, I'd just be elated. That is what I'm looking for tonight.
I know this happens on a daily basis, but we managed to piss off a lot of people yesterday. And I won't lie, I had a tough time sleeping knowing that a lot of Leafs Nation would not trade Matthew Nyes to acquire Sidney Crosby, dude. Like, what are we doing here? What are we smoking? Can I get some of that, please?
It's funny because when you bring it up, as soon as you hear, because everyone's pretty bloody excited about Matthew Nyes, what he's done in such a short amount of time. And I really think the sky's kind of the limit for what kind of an impact he can make on the Maple Leafs. So that's just forefront in everybody's minds. And then as soon as you just say we're trading him, and it doesn't really set in that it's Sidney Crosby, but right now, everyone's making fun of the Penguins. They're not doing anything. He's on the back nine. Is he going to win anything again? And your instant reaction is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What are you talking about here? Like, everyone's excited with what we have. But I don't think people have let, the fact that, I don't know, I was quick to be like, I just didn't think it's going to happen. But I'm also kind of quick to think, like, how would he fit in? Like, where is he playing? Is he just take over the locker room? Does he just take over the team? Is he just the new face of the Leafs and the leadership core? And what role does he play? And how much ice does he get compared to other guys? And who goes out there with a minute left when they need it's just like, it's kind of crazy. And I wouldn't shut it down. Like I said yesterday, if that deal's on my desk and I'm a GM, I think it's very difficult to turn it down if it's a real deal. But, interesting stuff. It did ruffle a lot of feathers. A lot of people were talking about it, and there's a lot of opinions. And I know your opinion was, this is Sidney Crosby. You guys must be out of your bloody mind.
Yeah, pretty much. Talk about party poopers, man, and losing imagination, not having an imagination. Like, it was a fun project, and then you had party poopers like yourself. It would never happen. Where would this guy fit? What number? Would you ever see a guy wear 87 on the Maple Leafs? Like, I don't care about that. I made a chain or a thread on X, having people submit their trade requests, regardless of the team that they support for Sidney Crosby. I believe the request I put out there, the trade offer I put out there, I think was Nyes, Hildeby, Cowan, and a first, and people were pissed off about that, man. The disrespect for a 38-year-old Sidney Crosby, still an absolute stud, who honestly I probably take over any Maple Leaf in the Stanley Cup playoffs right now. The disrespect killed me.
I hear you, man. I hear you. It's just, I think that made so much noise because of just the pure timing of it, right? Any other,
Yes.
Go back to training camp, like it would be a no-brainer. And it's just the way, the direction that the Leafs are headed, and the direction that, like, it's not like Crosby's nose diving or anything, but his direction isn't trending upwards, right? It's not like he's a savior of a team anymore. And I wonder where he would, how they would work that and where he would fit in. That's just my biggest thing. Of course he's going to fit in somewhere. Of course he's
Doing this
but,
fit.
but if you get the guy, he's going to be, you want him to be the main man and to like to get you to the promised land. And I'm sorry, but everyone else who's been working is going to be on the back burner to that. And I just don't know if it, like, chemistry wise, and if that would, it would be crazy interesting to see. I would love to do like a simulation and be able to figure out how that would work. It'd be very interesting, but a hot time to bring that up, I would say, which is why it raised so many eyebrows. But I, I'm stuck, man. He's not. He's 38. He's what, a 41-year-old. That those years are going to clip by and they're gone. But win now or get the hell out of the way is another way to look at it. Like, what are you waiting for?
Again, I want access to your stash. If the Leafs don't win the cup in the next 2 years, it's over. Party's over. Pack things up and go home. I'm sorry to break it to everybody out there. But anyways, you got a jam-packed show ahead. First and foremost, shout out to our guy, Johnny Lazarus, the host of Morning Cup of Hockey's in the chat right now, waiting for the Mike Grinnell interview coming up in about 25 minutes from now. But shout out to our friends over at Morning Cup of Hockey over the Daily Face-Off YouTube channel. Do a fantastic job alongside Colby Cohen.
Yes, that is true. I love it when these guys jump in our chat. Maybe they can wrangle up some of the donkeys that are in there and settle them down because they get a little feisty in the morning, don't they?
Our chat is like unlike anything else, I think, across the nation network, man. Just some of the shit you'll see there on a daily basis, mostly about my mustache and my eyebrows. So I love it.
Yeah, they got to think of new material though, and I'm sure if they look hard enough, there's plenty there to go off of you. So more to come, I'm sure.
Johnny says, I'm one of the donkeys, Rosie. Fair enough. Fair enough. Speaking of donkeys, this is a perfect segue. So I guess they released the mugshots of the 6 idiots who picked a fight with the wrong former NHL enforcer. I actually laughed when I saw it. I thought it was from The Town, first of all, the one that actually Rear Admiral had a cameo appearance in like 25 years ago. But just how battered and bruised these guys look. You would have thought they were in a 6-on-6 Survivor Series type style matchup, but it was like a 1-on-6, which is hilarious. Biz got them good.
Unreal, man. I mean, I have been on a million golf trips. It's like what like I do with my time away and the boys' trips and whatnot. And I've been in that situation where, you know, we're all a little bit full. We should be probably heading her home, but we're at this bar and banging into stools and stuff. And I just can't imagine a scenario where you are causing that big of a scene. You're that drunk. You're that aggressive. You're causing that much, you know, turmoil within this establishment to the point where nobody in the group is like, whoa, let's get Johnny home. Let's get him home. Like, settle. Hey, sorry about this. Relax. Yep. Someone pay the tab. Let's get the hell out of here. No, it's throwing bombs at the first guy that questions you. Like, they're there for so long. They had time for the cop. Those guys should have like beetled out of the bar and like sprinted the hell down the street and got in a cab and got the hell out of there. No, they stick around to start trying to boot this one guy that they can't obviously take 6-on-1 and all get arrested. And now they're getting smeared. Like, can you imagine? It's hard enough when you get home from a boys' golf trip, like acting like you're not like just shaking and about to die, and wife's asking what happened and how hard did you guys go. Now their names are splattered across everything. They're the most hated guys in the hockey world right now. And I can imagine everything about their personal lives is coming crashing down. And I don't know if it's to that extent, but you got to be a piece of shit to do everything that they did. By all accounts, that's exactly what happened. Like, who are you guys? You deserve it at the end of the day. Like, I wouldn't hang with people like that. How do you get 6 guys that are that big of idiots all in one room?
The worst part about it, man, I honestly thought it would have been like a pack of like 25-year-olds, but some of those guys were like pushing 50, if not 50 plus. That's what
Yeah.
concerns me about society.
And you'd think those would be the guys to say, "Hey, let's get the hell out of here." You know,
No.
you're going on this golf trip or outing or what? I don't know what the situation is. And there's 6 of them. Usually, it's just kind of a weird crowd, man, and a weird incident. And yeah, like when it first came out, I was like, oh, Biz, you know, like tried to do the right thing and they kind of rolled them. Like, what do you expect? But then story comes out and it's like, I think he downplayed like how many shots he got in and how hard. Like, that's not just like a hockey brawl where, you know, shit's going and eventually it fizzles out. Like, you're fighting for your life there. You get put down with a bunch of guys that obviously have no regard for anyone else. Like, he's talking curb stomp, brain damage.
Yeah.
Who knows what can happen? That's a scary situation. I've never really been in a situation where I'm being jumped by that many guys, but by all accounts, you'd be fighting for your life. And I thought Biz would look a hell of a lot worse, and he looks just fine.
Yeah, credit to them, by the way, for releasing the mugshots. Biz put out the video, I believe, yesterday, and he's like, I really want to get these mugshots out there. I mean, you mess with the wrong guy in general, but I just think it's such a sad story from their perspective. These dudes are golfing in Arizona, and they're a little, I don't know, who knows what happened, who knows what they were on, but to pick a fight with anybody, never mind Paul Bissonnette, is just wild to me. Emilio in the chat right now, I like when Rosie says my name.
Emilio! Is that my guy?
Yeah, that's your guy. He says, what up?
Got a good name, Emilio, man.
I love when you do that. It kills me. Anyways, Leafs Nation, we know you've got thoughts, takes, and opinions. Now's your chance to share them. Please hit that link in the show description or in the YouTube chat. I'm about to post it, by the way, and fill out our quick survey. Not only will you help us build content you actually want to see, but you're also throwing your name in the hat, in the ring, for a $250 Fanatics gift card. You can buy a Paul Bissonnette, vintage Kachina jersey if you'd like with that. And guess what? We've got multiple ones to give away. It's a quick minute of your time that could score you something super sweet. Don't wait. This chance ends on November 29th, Rosie.
Yeah, that's done on the 29th. That's coming up soon. So get it in. And I'm looking forward to the results too. First of all, I want to see who won the damn thing and what they do with it. Because we've had a lot of talk about what jersey you'd get if you had a free custom jersey you could make up. And then what do they want to see? What do they like? What do they don't like? I know they don't like a lot of things about you, Nick. Probably quite a few things about me. And swearing here and there. Some yay, some nay. But it's a good opportunity to see what people actually think about the show, what they want to see down the road, and looking forward to the results of that.
This is going to be a tough call with management maybe in a couple weeks' time when they tally up the results of this survey. I think you better block out an entire afternoon, Rosie.
They're like, well, by all accounts, we should just shut down this.
You guys are
show.
pigeons. We're canceling the show.
The consensus. You guys canceled yourselves. Yeah, that'd be a first. These guys put out a survey and they ended up canceling themselves. Good
Always a concern. Always a concern. I won't lie. Always a concern when it comes to a cancellation and working with you, Jay Rosehill. So I'm kidding. We're pumped for Jeff Merrick, man. Coming up on Monday. It's almost here, the big day, 3 p.m. Eastern time. The Sheet with Jeff Merrick. We just talked about Johnny Laz. Same YouTube page, the Daily Faceoff YouTube page. It debuts 3 p.m. Eastern time on Monday. Big plans in store with Jeff Merrick. Also, make sure to check out at the Sheet Hockey on all your favorite social media platforms. I'm sure we'll be guests on that show. Can't wait for the official unveiling of Merrick on Monday.
I know it looked good. I just keep laughing at that picture. Is that a current picture? Or
Dude,
is that
that's my big gripe with the pandemic right now. In terms in correlation to new media or social media, is like a lot of people don't have updated mugshots. Funny enough, like I know when I worked at Sportsnet back in the day, they would have like a media day every year where everybody would go in. They would get a couple shots, and then they pretty much like put them out there in like a release, and they'd be on Google and stuff like that. Some people I get in the shows, like Grinnell, for example, I couldn't find like a proper shot of just him looking up, like squared up,
Yeah, I don't know. Go back and look at the headshots of anybody. We were laughing at an interview I had long ago, and I looked like a little baby face, little teeny bopper back in the day. I thought I was a little bigger and tougher looker back in the day, but I was looking like a child when I was playing for Toronto, apparently.
I went down a rabbit hole last night. I was so annoyed there was no hockey after 10 Eastern time, and just found some gold on YouTube of Jay Rosehill and scrums. Paul Henrik was in there. But just looking very, very shy. And then just me thinking about working with you right now. You're not very shy anymore, Rosie.
I had to grow into a man before that could happen. And that I blossomed once I teamed up with you, Nick. You give me so much confidence.
Oh, stop it. So we got Mike Grinnell of Spittin Chiclets coming up in about 15 minutes. Can't wait for that. Also, can't wait for tonight's edition of the Leafs Nation After Dark with Zach Phillips and guest Jay Rosehill.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if I should crank a few beers before that one.
I think so. I think you can. And I think you should. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, stranger things have happened.
It's going to be an interesting game. It really is when they take on the Florida Panthers. We're about to tee it up. Make sure to get those super chats in at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take. Wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. I actually just put an article earlier today talking about 3 center options that could make sense between now and the trade deadline for the Maple Leafs. Had Ryan O'Reilly, maybe a reunion there. I had Brock Nelson, a pending UFA, and Jake Evans, a pending UFA with the Montreal Canadiens. But I think there's going to be a variety of different options, even thinking about it last night. How about your guy Claude Giroux's in a contract here for the Sens?
G baby, yeah, he
Yeah,
is.
that's
It
our
seems
guy.
like he just signed with them, for crying out loud. That went by fast. I wonder if, wonder how happy he is there. We were talking to someone the other day, like between T'Chak and these guys, if they don't get their stuff figured out in Ottawa, there's not a whole lot keeping guys there. Like it's, I don't know. They're trying getting Allmark. It'd be interesting to talk to G and see if he's. I'm sure he's open to anything, but I know he's got a young family and he's from Ottawa. Maybe he's just happy sitting tight. But I think if the Leafs do get, those guys you mentioned, all viable options, I would think to just. I'm looking at this roster and everything that they're doing and where they're set up and what they've done this far in the first quarter. And if they could just insert one of those guys just down there in that bottom six, center role, it would just all of a sudden, like, it's like a missing piece of a puzzle where it's like, yeah, that looks good, but what the hell's going on with this? And then just put that last piece in. Oh, there she is. So I really think Tree's going to be working the phones hard, trying to work something to fill in that last little piece of depth down the center. And by all accounts, teams that do well in the playoffs have got that, a guy that they can rely to. They can roll the lines. You can't, you get into those tough spots of those very important games where it's the difference between going up or down in a series or whatever the situation is. And you're just trying to roll your top two lines. Like, it just doesn't work sometimes. You need that depth and you need that support from other places. And the Leafs have it more than they have in a while, but there's still some missing there. So interesting names to be brought up there.
Very unique matchup, as mentioned tonight in Sunrise. Just a quick 2-game road trip into Florida. But weirdly enough, a pretty decently big game in the standings just because of the separation you can create if you win these games, specifically this one. They're already 3 points up on the Panthers with a game in hand. But I was laughing at this tweet yesterday from Colby Guy, who covers the Panthers on a daily basis. Paul Maurice just said the word fuck like 15 times in one sentence. Well, Craig Berube says fuck a lot too, so it's like a fuck off tonight, Rosie.
Nick, right during the survey too of what people don't like, man. No reason for it. Yeah, Burry says it a lot, doesn't he? Was he on one of those series where
You're
it's like,
such a hypocrite.
yeah, right. Oh, I'd say it 5 times in a row like that just for shock value. No way. I say it to get some power behind my thoughts. That's all.
I was talking about what he said at practice.
I hear you. No, it's I don't know if someone's going to turn a team around and get them back on the rails. I think Paul Maurice, by all accounts, is a guy that is capable of doing it. But they're sliding a little bit right now, and the Leafs don't want to be the team that get their like allow another team to get their legs under them and get their season back on track. You want to stomp on them while they're down. It's not very often you can get the Florida Panthers in this position where they're scrambling and looking for answers. Meanwhile, the Leafs are on cruise control right now. So hopefully they find the formula tonight, but I wouldn't expect anything less than a really solid effort from a really good team. I don't think Florida is going to be sliding all year long. They're too well coached at the end of the day.
The Maple Leafs have won 4 in a row and 7 of 8, of course, all without Austin Matthews. No official confirmation, but judging by what Matthews said yesterday, I don't think he'll go. Just the standings on your screen right now, the Maple Leafs with a 3-point gap. So this is big, man. I know it's early in the season. I know a lot is made of the NHL standings around American Thanksgiving, but they could really create some separation and put their foot down and say, hey, we're here to stay tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you get a win tonight. You got 5-point lead with a game in hand. I mean, that's starting to get cozy, right? And it's a big week. It's a big test. Wednesday night game. I mean, the big thing that Craig Berube is going to be preaching right now is don't worry about anything else but us. Don't leave it in cruise control. We have to keep the hammer down. We've got to focus on ourselves and do all those little things that have got us this wins. It doesn't really matter who's been in the lineup, who's been in, who's been out, who's been hurt, if the power play's been good or bad. And it's if you come with the same mentality and the game sheet notes and everyone buys into them and focuses on them and pays attention to those details, you're going to keep playing the way that you have been. And they need to focus on that tonight. And I hope there's no distractions or outside, BS going on. And that's Craig's job, to get those guys to be hyper focused every single night.
Unsurprisingly, it's going to be Sergei Bobrovsky starting for the Florida Panthers. I expect pretty much the same what we've seen from these two sides the last couple of years, an intense, a physical game. It sounded like at practice that was sort of the message that was barking from Craig Berube before the team hit the plane for Florida here, is expect that type of game. I expect a playoff feel to this one tonight. Do you?
Yeah, we will see. I just wonder where the Panthers' minds are at right now. usually they're licking their lips, getting a chance at the Leafs, and they try to take advantage, and they're the favorites and all the rest of it. But I mean, maybe not in Vegas, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And this time the scripts kind of flipped, and the Panthers are kind of clawing, going, "Oh, we're losing ground on the division," and they haven't really done that before. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But if the Panthers are gonna, put the throttle down and give them their best shot, it'll absolutely be a high intensity physical matchup. But the Leafs have got, the personnel to respond to that in spades this year. And I don't think that they're going to be pushed around. I don't think they're going to go away. I don't think they're going to be intimidated. And I want them to take control right off the bat and say, we're dictating this game there, fellas. There's a change of guard happening in this division.
I like that. And I honestly feel it's cliche to talk about, but the first 10 minutes will dictate the way this game goes. Because like you, I expect a response from the Florida Panthers. They haven't been good the last little while. They've dropped 4 in a row. They always seem to get up for games against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Paul Maurice, the former Maple Leafs head coach back in the day, like all signs point to a bounce back for the Florida Panthers. And I want to see how the Leafs deal with that, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. And that's Berube, right? We've talked about
Yep.
accountability and like what the difference is this season and then in seasons past. I mean, how often have we been doing shows, and whether it's
Mm-hmm.
pre-game or post-game after, and we're just like, what the hell was that? Like, why weren't they prepared? Why didn't they take this seriously? And they just leave it in cruise control sometimes, and nobody's there to keep the guys in check, it seemed like. And now Berube, like, Mitch can have the best game ever going, and if he has a bit of a brain fog going on for 2 shifts in a row, he's getting barked at, rightfully so. And you go, oh shit, yeah, I forgot. I got to do this stuff every day, every day, every day, every shift, every shift. And he's there now to create that accountability. Like, boys, if you think you're cruising right now, you go on a little bit of a slide or start playing 500 hockey, everything you've done is fucking gone. And now you're in, the pits, and you're in the battles for this division. Don't let that happen. Be prepared. You know who that team is over there. You know who they are. You've seen them. They're going to be coming with everything at blah, 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 and get them prepared to wake up. Oh shit. Yeah. I got to be ready tonight. Got to be ready tonight. Every single night is as important as the last. And Craig's the guy that's got to instill that in them all the time. You can't get too high. You can't get too low. You got to be ready all the time. Worry about yourself and all those little details that have gotten them to this point, playing good hockey and chipping away wins and getting on streaks without all their lineup and stuff. It's that little stuff that Craig's been preaching, that he brought to this organization, that's got them there. So they can't let it go now. They got to stay on course.
Looking for consistency and looking for a bit of predictability when it comes to which team's going to show up, right? And the last little while, it's felt that way. And again, the amazing thing about this is all the personnel that have left the lineup, and they haven't skipped a beat in terms of the structure and style, which I think is a positive, right?
100%. It's I think they in the summertime we were talking about, don't be surprised if there's some growing pains, if these guys are trying to figure out like the details that they have to commit to if they're going to play Craig's style. And there was a little bit here and there, a little 3-game slide there, and
Mhm.
like, who's these, like, what is this? And it wasn't very much, to be honest. They figured it out quick, and I don't think Craig's system is very complicated. I don't think it's reinventing the wheel. I don't think anyone has to like become a different player to play it by any stretch. So they picked it up quick, had success right off the bat, and it's not something that you know. I just don't think we've talked about that. Who the hell was that team? Well, where were they?
Mhm.
They didn't even show up. Like, show up. It hasn't been the theme in quite a while, and they've had a lot of reasons to, and a lot of excuses they could have leaned back on to say, well, look at all these injuries. It's been the complete opposite. Like, and it's conducive to winning. So they got to continue with that. And if they're gonna do something special, they need to be able to access their best all the time, and it needs to become their identity, beating those words to death. But that's what it is. And it starts with the big boys. It starts with the start. It starts with the leadership, and those guys are starting to know what it's like to start to play some winning hockey, be at the top of the division. And then it becomes all about accountability on doing that night in and night out.
Speaking of accountability, Chris Patrick writes in, you guys actually interact with the chat, and it's appreciated. You're welcome, Chris.
Yeah, I don't have the bandwidth to do too much of it. Like, it goes fast. I'm like, who do what say? And I gotta stay with the show. But you're good at it, and I like when you throw tidbits. But maybe I'll pull her up a little more and try to focus on it. I do when I'm
Uh,
not on the show. Actually, I should jump in more often. And I watch the show, and I'm like, oh, look at all this shit going on. But I should be more vocal, maybe.
I love the silent lurking in the chat when you're not working. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Again, about 5 minutes or so away from Mike Grinnell of Spittin Chiclets. Still no confirmation if Austin Matthews will play this game. We'll see. Jake McCabe, by the way, took a maintenance day yesterday, was on the ice for the morning skate, which is good news, obviously.
Oh, good. Maintenance days. Those are all right as long
What do
as
those look like, maintenance days? When we see that on social media, I sort of like, oh, what does that mean? I don't know, is he at the pool or?
No, it's just like, you're feeling something after the game. Okay, ice it down, have your sleep, wake up, let's check it out in the morning. Oh God, is it ever stiff? Like my right groin, it's not pulled, but it's like right there. Let's see your range of motion. Let's see how much power you have. But okay, let's keep you off the ice today. We're gonna do some stim, ultrasound. We're gonna do a few exercises, get you in the pool, and just kind of chill things out. That's just a maintenance day, right? Something's bugging you. There's no reason, like you're not gonna become a better player by going out for a pregame skate or for a 35-minute practice. Like, stay off. If something's aggravated, let's not turn it into something that's hurt. And a guy that's of that age that plays those minutes, and this day and age, I don't think there's any problem with taking those days off to make sure that you're not getting worn down.
Just looking as well on X, I guess the three boys who are making their returns tonight, Stolarz, OEL, and Lorentz got their rings, man. So they got to be fired up as well for that, right?
Oh, I didn't see that. I always love
Yeah.
that when they come out with the rings. They're obnoxiously big these days, and by no means can anyone ever wear the goddamn thing. So I'm just waiting for an owner to be like, let's chill these out a little bit. Yeah, there's going to be big fatties on it and everything else, but let's get something where they can wear it to a special occasion and don't look like a moron, because they're getting out of control. So we'll see what these ones look like from the Panthers, because I haven't seen them yet.
Only you would bitch about a Stanley Cup ring and how big it is. I'd want the thing so big, man. Show everybody I won a Stanley Cup. Why not?
You don't get to show anybody. It sits on your goddamn mantle, and everyone's like, is that your ring? That's the only thing. I want to wear that thing. You got a big event. You're going to someone's wedding. You're on TV for some reason. Wear your cup ring like the boys used to. No one does. You never see them again ever in your life once it's unveiled, and then it sits on a shelf, man. It's a ring. It's supposed to be worn places.
Here's an idea. Get a duplicate, and you can wear it to the club if you want.
Yeah, I guess. That's just kind of stupid, though.
Speaking of rings, the following interview is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece program and an unbeatable pricing policy. Charm Diamond Centers is proudly Canadian-owned and operated since 1972 with more than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. As we bring in today's guest from Spittin Chiclets is Mike Grinnell. What's going on, Grinnell? How are you, buddy?
What's up, boys? I agree. I think rings have gotten out of control. They're just, I couldn't agree more. Like, if you can't wear the ring, they're almost even like too big to put on a chain around your neck because it's so big.
It's like a dick measuring contest. Like, look at the size of this. It's like, dude, it's supposed to, well, give him a fucking medallion then if you want. If that's what you're going to do. If you want to make the biggest, gaudiest thing in the world, give him like a medal. Like, it's not even a ring anymore. Get something they can put on their hand. The ones I've put on, like Schenner's and stuff, I'm like, I can't even close my hand because it's taking up all the space where the other fingers are supposed to be. It's outrageous.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Great take.
Love that. Good start to this one.
Clip it. So, G, you work with obviously a badass. I work with a badass, which is pretty cool. What's been your perspective of the last 48 to 72 hours, everything surrounding Biz?
He's an animal. He's an animal in every aspect of the word. He's a great guy. I think that's really what it comes down to. Like, when you listen to the full story on the show, you hear that, Biz was standing up for someone who's smaller than him. And anyone who knows Biz knows that that's a regular occurrence. Like, not that he takes on goes 7v1 in a restaurant, but Biz is always one that's always been, he'll stand up for the smaller guy. He'll speak for the people who can't speak for themselves. And I think the more that comes out about these guys, I don't know if you're seeing all this stuff online, but supposedly they're like these Irish travelers, these inbred weirdos who just like rip everyone off on paving companies. This is all alleged. I don't know if that's true, but there's some crazy stuff coming out about these guys. So good riddance for Biz. Very glad he's okay. I think that's the main thing. Very glad he's okay, and proud to call him my friend. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, by the sounds of things, that could have gone the other way in a hurry. And luckily it was Biz, or someone would have been like seriously hurt. Those guys didn't seem to have any off switch from what it sounds like. What was there anything, I guess everything was kind of ducks in a row as far as the police and stuff. But as soon as Biz was out there talking about like chucking and putting the arm, I was just like, God, don't get yourself into a legal problem. But it sounds like by all accounts, it went exactly the way that Biz said it did. All the all the spectators and people who witnessed it. And these guys are just like, can you imagine them coming home from this golf trip with the backlash and the blowback that's
Oh my
happening right now,
God.
what their wives and stuff must be thinking? The last people in the world I'd want to be today is those pricks.
Yeah, and it's the amount of people that have reached out to and that have said like just going through the DMs that are like, yeah, Biz, like I saw what happened. It went down exactly as you said, and I'm sure the security footage is going to come out in the next few days. So I think everyone's going to be able to see it. I can't wait to see Biz buckling that one guy. So yeah, I'm so proud of him, man. Like it's funny too because I woke up in the morning and I rolled over, looked at my phone, and Biz sent me a picture, and it was the side of his head because something happened to his ear, and like the next text was, "I'm gonna kill these guys." So I like roll over and look at it, and I say to my fiance, I'm like, "Oh, Biz got a bad haircut. He's pissed." Because all he sent me was like the fade on his head. So I'm like, and he doesn't have a great fade right now. So I was like, "Oh, Biz got a bad haircut." And then I woke up and looked at it. I'm like, "Oh shit, Biz got jumped." Little different than a bad haircut.
Hey, Rosie, what does it feel like to take a Biz punch? You felt it, right?
Yeah, a couple times.
You guys have had some good scraps.
Yeah, like I actually didn't like scrapping him because our styles were so different, but he was strong. We do the big long string out, and no, by all accounts, knew what he was doing. But I just feel for him being in that position. Like it's been a long time since I was ever in like a bar fight or some like position where you're not comfortable at all. But I've never been jumped by 6 guys, and by all accounts, it's a lot different. Like you're kind of in a, it's not a safe zone being in a hockey fight. You know, there's bare knuckle punches, but you kind of know what to expect, and there's
No
some
one's
boundaries.
kicking you while you're down.
Like
You know what I
you're
mean?
out there 6-on-1. Like we're talking, man, this could screw you up for life. These guys start stalling. They don't seem to have any accountability for anyone else around them. They seem to be completely unhinged. Who knows what they're on from what they've already seen. And now it's in the parking lot and there's no one around, and Biz to be on the ground. I can imagine that was bloody terrifying. And for a guy like that, you just got to flip your switch, black out, and just give everything you got and fight for your life. And I can't imagine that's not what he was doing. And luckily he's Biz and he was able to probably come out ahead, which is fucking insane when you think about it.
Yeah, and I mean he said it was took some, gave more. Like what a great line. Like because you see the picture of the mugshots of the guys and they don't look great either. I mean, Biz has that one little scratch on his face, but I think he got his licks in as well.
Yeah, definitely did. And I knew a T-shirt was coming in like 4 hours, and it certainly was released.
He didn't want to put it out. We had to like force him to, but
very humble dude. So Canadian. Early returns on Joe Sacco and Boston G.
I'd say good so far. I like what I've seen from them. It seems like they're going back to Boston Bruins hockey, which is defense first. And I mean, you've seen that the past 2 games. 3 games now, 2-1, but they're still struggling to produce offense. And I don't necessarily know if that's something that Joe Sacco can fix himself. I think that's something that Don Sweeney has to address. I think he's maybe has to go out and either bring someone in, or we look back to Providence where it's Matt Poitras, Fabian Lysell, Georgi Merkulov. There's offense down in Providence right now, but Boston clearly doesn't see them as the answer right now. So I've been pretty pleased with Sacco, Boston guy, Medford's finest, North Shore guy. So I love that. It sucks to see Monty go. I think that really sucks. I think Monty's an incredible coach. I do think it had to happen though. I mean, you've seen they look like a different team the past 3 games, which is the coach's bump. You know what I mean? Like it does make a difference, even though it wasn't Monty's fault. Like these guys are obviously going to play a little harder. Jay, you know what it's like, when a new coach comes in the locker room, you want to get on his good side. You're going to be blocking those shots. You're going to play a little extra hard. So it's, I'm happy with what I've seen so far, but I think offense is still the elephant in the room. They got to find a way to create, but Brad Marchand's struggling. David Pastrnak struggling. So once those guys get going, I think everything will kind of even out.
Did anyone see this coming preseason? Like Boston's just been like top notch for so long, and you almost take it for granted. Did anyone like stop and like analyze, like if this happens, like we could be in trouble, or was it just business as usual? This came out of nowhere. Or people have been talking about their roster for a little while now.
Well, I think the Monty thing, I think the Bruins thought it could happen because from everything I had been told this summer is Sacco was told like, hey, if things go awry to start the season, like you're our guy. And a lot of people say that if Monty lost that game 7 to the Leafs, or if the Bruins lost that game 7, I'm sorry, to the Leafs, that Monty in the first round, Monty probably would have been canned. So yeah, it's been a big shit show just from the beginning. I don't think anyone really saw this coming, especially with, signing Lindholm, signing Zadorov, but it's been easy to be a Bruins fan, I'd say, the past, 15 years, but yeah, it's I don't want to say dark times ahead, but they got to make some moves here. They got to make some changes because Patrice Bergeron and Zdeno Chara aren't walking through that door anytime soon.
Well, Grinnell, on behalf of Leafs Nation, I'll say we don't feel bad for you at all. We really we absolutely do not feel bad for you. I want to transition the conversation to the Maple Leafs. I know you cover the NHL as well on a daily basis. The goaltending has been something, obviously, you look at in Boston. It's just been a premium the last X amount of years. So right now, I mean, Stolarz and Wall have been outstanding, this combo, and I couldn't help but think about Swayman and Allmark. Do you think they have the potential to be that next 1-2 punch in this league?
I don't think I don't think they can be what Swayman and Allmark were. I think that was incredible for 2 years, and that's why they got the President's Trophy 2 years ago. Like that's why they've had the success that they've had. But I look at like Vegas. When Vegas made that cup run a few years ago in Aiden Hill, you know what I mean? He kind of came out of nowhere. Wasn't Logan Thompson an all-star that year?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't know. I could see it being more of a Vegas situation where it's like it's not as dominant, but I do actually believe, and I hate to say this, but I do believe Stoley, the goalie, and Wall is enough to make a run this year. And I've in years past, it's always been goalie. That's where the Leafs that's their biggest deficiency. But fuck, it pains me to say it, but I think those two can do it this year.
Is that the take? Like, what is the take from Boston? I mean, we know what the Leafs' take on Boston's always been, frustration and probably a little bit of jealousy, but hatred and always getting the best from them. What's the mentality in Boston Bruins land about the Leafs in general, and then particularly about this year right now?
I think it's there's really two things here. And I think Leafs have this same PTSD where like anytime I talk to a Leafs fan, I'm like, hey man, like this could be the year. And they're like, no. Well, we gotta wait till the playoffs and see. It's kind of the opposite with Boston, where it's like we gotta wait and see if the Leafs can come beat us. But at the same time, if there was a year to do it, I think it would be this year. I mean, look where the Bruins are, look where the Leafs are. The Leafs look incredible, and they don't even have Austin Matthews in the lineup. So they have the goalies, they have the coach. They have. I hate how positive I'm being about the Leafs right now, but they have everything it takes, I think, to take down Boston this year. But again, it's wait and see, because once playoffs start, it's a whole new breed.
By the way, I didn't pressure Grinnell into saying anything great about the Maple Leafs. We do appreciate his time on today's show. But yeah, I think there's a lot of positives to grab, and we have been very complimentary in the past of the Boston Bruins. I think you look specifically at the Maple Leafs. Mitch Marner, man, like this recent stretch, he's been outstanding. 7 multi-point efforts in the last 8 games. How do you view like Mitch Marner? Because I know I've heard the conversation about Hart Trophy. I don't think he's right there in like the top 5, but he's certainly making some noise right now, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think what's going to be huge for Mitch Marner this year is the Four Nations. And I say that because it's basically mid-season playoff hockey. He's going to get that taste of high intensity, that physical style play in the middle of the season, and hopefully can carry that through the stretch run of the season. But again, Mitch Marner's done this before. Mitch Marner's an incredible regular season player, but it comes down to the playoffs. I want to see what Mitch Marner can do in the playoffs. I think everyone thinks that right now. Everyone knows he's a great player. And we interviewed Nathan McKinnon, I believe, to start the year. And we've interviewed a few guys, and every one of them speaks so highly of Mitch Marner. It's only the fans that kind of rip on Mitch Marner. His teammates, former teammates, guys that play against him, like he is an elite player. And I do think he catches... I love being the Bruins fan throwing shots. Mitch Marner's an easy punching bag come playoff time. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Like he's fun to be in this Bruins Leaf rivalry, But yeah, it really comes down to what we're going to see come playoff time. What I'm doing right now is I'm texting all my buddies who are Leafs fans saying, is it time to trade Matthews? They look better without Austin. Does Mitch and Austin hate each other? I just love stirring the pot a little bit.
Yeah. Well, let's say hypothetical world, the Boston Bruins gets to take someone off the Maple Leafs and Austin Matthews off the table. Which guy do you go to add to the Boston Bruins if you had your choice?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. You know who I'm going to say that might, well, obviously William Nylander. I think William Nylander is like the best player on the Leafs. But Matthew Nyes, I love Matthew Nyes. And I think like what the Bruins need is that big physical power forward type guy who can get you 20 goals, who you're not paying 11, 12 million to. So something about Nyes I love, but yeah, I mean, I'm super curious as to what happens moving forward with Mitch Marner. I'd love to hear like what you guys are saying, because they're in such a difficult position right now where it's like you essentially have to pay this guy, because the way the season's going right now is you can't trade him. You can't trade him, and you can't lose him at the end of the season for nothing. So you might as well sign him. But then it's like, well, what are you going to sign him to? And man, like the fact that you got to imagine, like with all the shit that this kid has taken over the past, 2-3 years, you got to imagine that he's going to be willing to take a little bit of a hometown discount. Like, is that what you're hearing?
That's a pretty fucking good joke, Grinnell.
Paul Marner
taking every penny.
happen.
I don't know. We've had extensive takes on this Marner thing for like 2.5 years. Rosie, you can go ahead after me. I just don't think you'd be in a good position to pay this guy right now, not knowing what the playoffs look like. Because if you get to the playoffs and it's the same thing where they lose in the first round, regardless of how many games, and it's the same Marner performance, it's the same looking team, then you're going to run it back with the same players. And I think that's my bigger issue, Rosie. It's not so much about Marner. I just think it's the ability to reimagine this team after this season is what intrigues me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like it's running it back, which they've done. It's not worked. So that's like the definition of insanity. But Matthews isn't going anywhere. Nylander's locked up. You couldn't move Johnny T if you wanted with his contract, and it's ending here soon anyway. So like Mitch just ends up being the odd man out, like the only guy that anyone has control over not running it back again. And that's just been the huge disappointments and coming up shorts and having regular seasons that are, fantastic and just coming up short. So it's like, well, we don't have the personnel. Let's change it. That's people's mentality. And that falls on Mitch's lap. And inevitably he always has, he's a phenomenal player. That's not the conversation. It's do we commit to them again and just cross our fingers? Like that's Leafs fans have just had too much heartbreak to go through that. But I'm starting to soften on the idea that, Craig Berube was the answer. And that's what you needed to get in there, to have them playing the same way or the right way, and have Mitch stop playing this perimeter hockey and this loop and shoot, backhand sauce, no look pass, pull up at the blue line, never drive the net. That's no longer acceptable. And I think he's good enough if he can, put on a pair of balls and play some playoff hockey. I think this problem would go away.
And don't the Leafs have a ton of cap space this offseason? And like, with the cap going the way it supposedly is, it's like, maybe they can sign Marner and add more pieces. Like it's not, I don't think it's going to be so tight where in years past the Leafs have been so up against it just because where the cap's going. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. Yeah, I think it's the biggest example of the NHL being a business where it's like it really isn't about Marner's play. It's more about like where his, like you said, it's like Matthews is signed long-term, Nylander is signed long-term. You already have the screw up on the last Tavares contract. So it's kind of like he's just the odd man out, like you said.
I don't know if you're seeing this stateside, but I guess we're bored here in Canada because tomorrow's just Thursday. It's not Thanksgiving, but there's a lot of Crosby conversation. And we talked about this yesterday. And for some reason I put out on X, like, would you include Matthew Nyes in a deal to acquire Sidney Crosby? And the amount of no's, dude, I want to quit this show.
Crazy.
I wasn't going to come do this interview today.
That is fucking crazy. I think I think Sidney Crosby is, he's still a Hart candidate. Like he is.
Yeah.
I thought he was one of the best players in the league last season. It's in this season too. It's like he's incredible, and just the value that guy adds both on and off the ice. I can't even fathom the fact that Maple Leafs fans wouldn't give up Matthew Nyes, because you get Sidney Crosby in a trade, like you're gonna win the cup. It's like if the Maple Leafs got Sidney Crosby in a trade, they are winning the cup, plain and simple.
Ooh, fuck, is that ever enticing for Leafs fans? Where do you think he'd fit in, like, as far as
Oh my
leadership,
God.
presence in the room, who goes out there on the power play, who goes out there with a minute left in the game? Like, it would be kind of a jumble. Like, all those other big boys would have to take a step back, and the media would get all on that. And how do you
Jumble
feel
it
in
up, baby. They need a big, nice jumble. Like
Mhm.
that's exactly what they need. Is they need someone like Sidney Crosby to come in there and say, "Hey, like, fuck off, guys. Like, we're like, let's go win a Stanley Cup here. Let's not pay attention to all the bullshit." And I mean, you just see like I think about that clip. It was kind of going viral about I think a month ago, where I think it was Malkin missed the empty net, and he's mic'd up, he's sitting on the bench, and you hear like 3 or 4 seats down, you hear one of his teammates like, "Open net, like, come on, Gino." And you see Sid skate over and he's like, "Boys, come on, like, let's encourage him. Like, maybe next shift he gets one." And then he goes, taps Gino on the shin pads, and he's like, "Hey, bud, next time you'll get it." Like, that is so valuable to have that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying the Leafs don't have that kind of stuff now, but add Sidney Crosby with his leadership and the fact that he's one of the best players in the game, it would just be a no-brainer if you're a Leafs fan. I don't think that'll ever happen. I think he'd be more likely to go like Montreal for that matter, but yeah.
Oof, that's
We're
tough to
bored.
think about.
We're missing things to talk about. Our team's just so damn good right now. So, G, thank you so much for your time today. By the way, Johnny Lazarus is in the chat. He says, "What up?" By the way.
Tell Johnny I said hi. Love what you guys are doing. I love the backdrops. You got the blue lights. Everything looks
Look at
great.
Rosie, man. Look at
Yeah,
that.
I was gonna say I noticed that before, but yeah, thank you guys for having me on. Love the show and keep crushing it, boys.
Happy
Thanks for your
Thanksgiving,
time,
man.
man.
Take care.
Happy Thanksgiving. Chiclets you tomorrow,
Dude.
noon.
See you, buddy. Mike Grinnell of Spittin Chiclets, man. That was a lot of fun.
For sure, easy to talk to, man. It's
Yeah.
it's nice to get different perspective. I like picking the brain of other people from different markets, especially one that's like a rival, and be like, "What do you think about the Leafs?" And I think it's easy for them to be a punching bag to a lot of different markets, just solely based on they're the big boys who don't actually win, and so it's like, screw you. It's easy to pick on them, and we're all patiently waiting for them to get the job done in one way or another, whether that means, second round to you or conference finals or Stanley Cup finals or winning a bloody cup. It would be nice to change that narrative a little bit for sure.
Very honest Bruins fan, which we respect and really appreciate from Mike Grinnell of Spittin Chiclets. So once again, thank you to him for dropping by at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button right now. Hit that subscribe button, pretty please. That would help out the podcast quite a bit. All right, so the feature presentation, the Leafs and the Florida Panthers, some lineup news as the Leafs are on the ice right now for the morning skate from David Alter on X. Austin Matthews taking part in the morning skate. Also, Jake McCabe is, but by the line configurations on the power play specifically suggests that Austin Matthews will not play tonight, which I'm not surprised at considering his comments yesterday. And I won't lie, pretty pumped at the fact that I'm going to Tampa on Saturday to watch that game where I think Matthews returns and there's a good chance Matthew Nyes is back too.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. We will see what happens tonight. Again, just measuring stick game, see where they're at. Normally, you'd be pulling your hair out saying, how can they possibly do anything without now Nyes? And then it's everybody up and down the lineup has been out. Luckily, our D-core, knock on wood, has stayed fairly healthy. But we'll see what they have in the tank. It's an exciting week. And, I mean, if they can keep this thing going after this week, I think a lot of eyes open up in the NHL in general, saying, what the hell's going on in Toronto? And then it'll sink in that Austin's been out for how long? For people that are kind of casually paying attention, I think a huge week here in Florida could open up some serious eyes around the league.
I want to start making some more noise for Nylander and Marner, for that matter, for the Hart Trophy. When Connor McDavid leaves for Edmonton, it's all about Draisaitl, and hell, he did it a couple years ago with without McDavid. And I think these guys have been brilliant, and I think they deserve more credit on the national stage. So I'm going to give them more credit. The numbers are pretty insane without Matthews in general in 8 games. 7-1-0 are the Maple Leafs, 25 goals for, 13 goals against, the power play 28.6%, the PK 81.8%. So that tells you they're not really scoring, but they're defending super well, and the special teams have been dialed in.
I know, they're just playing. Like, do you remember like watching even last year and the year before? And it's just odd man rush, odd man rush, odd man rush, breakaway, turnover. And it's what's killing them. And it's the discipline that they lacked with the puck. Like if you have this 50-50 chance, take the safe route. Don't, engage in those low percentage plays is what coaches are always talking about. Those low percentage plays, you have to take the safe route to avoid the turnovers. They kill you. And I'm not seeing them out there anymore. I'm just not seeing the turnovers. I'm not seeing the odd man rushes. And you can attribute that to whatever you want. But at the end of the day, I think it's a collective. The reason is collective between the goaltenders, the defense, the new system, Craig Berube, guys buying in, and it's nice to watch. And I hope it's not. I hope it's something they can be consistent with, because they've had trouble with consistency in the past. I hope when they get Austin Matthews back, I mean, it's ridiculous to say, but does that throw this mindset like off kilter? Because nothing else makes sense about it. So it is that weird and fairy tale and odd that that this happens every time Austin's not in the lineup. I hope it continues when he's in the lineup, and there's no reason to think it wouldn't, but this is a weird organization that does weird stuff. So that's one thing I like, before I get too high on the team, like, let's get Austin back there at the helm and make sure we can still do all the same things that they've been doing when in his absence. But by all means, they're putting a lot of pieces together, and I hope this is a big measuring stick game here on Wednesday against Florida.
It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase today. I've got a weird hunch this is going to be a wacky, crazy, chaotic game for a variety of reasons. Among them, you would have to think a lot of people horny about Thanksgiving tomorrow in the States. Like, you can let loose if you're the Leafs for a couple days. The Panthers, all the excitement with the Stanley Cup rings. So for that in mind, I'm going to play the over 6.5 in this game, if you can believe it. I don't even know if there's a number at 5.5 or 6.5, but I'm taking the over.
It's 5.5. That's too funny, because I never take these things. I think I'm going to take the under, which we've never gone head to head on the Zed. I'm excited for this. I just think goaltending duo. I think Bobbers had their number a lot of the time. I think there's going to be a lot of focus on energy, effort, hitting, two clubs going, head to head. I think Maurice is going to have these guys playing smart, and I think they're going to be a defensive battle. And I could see Stoli continuing to stand on his head. And I think it's going to be a 3-2 victory for somebody. And hopefully that is the Leafs, but I think they're going to keep it under 5.5.
Expecting a tight one. I like it, Rosie. Okay, so I think that'll do it for me and you this week. You're off tomorrow. Carter Hutton's going to be in the mix, and on Friday, as mentioned, I'll be gone, and it's going to be a players-only edition of Leafs Morning Take with you and Huts.
Oh, that is scary, man. A bunch of amateurs running the show. Well,
so many amateurs on this podcast. It's wild.
We've been called amateurs before, haven't we?
We have a couple times, yes. It's okay. We're working through it.
All good. You enjoy your time in the sun. I'm a little jealous. I would like to get out to some warmer climates right about now if I was you. So we'll see you after that. Enjoy the game. And big week for the Leafs, as we mentioned.
Quick little rip. Going down on Friday, be back on Sunday night, but going to Emily Arena on Saturday night for that game. And again, as mentioned, doesn't sound like Austin Matthews will return here against the Florida Panthers, which would line him up for Saturday night hockey night at Emily Arena, and Matthew Nyes could come back and is eligible to return on Saturday as well. So looking forward to that. Should mention as well, coming up on tomorrow's show, All Elite Wrestling's Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge from WWE, is going to drop by the show. Big time Leafs fan. We actually interviewed him at All-Star last year in Toronto, remember?
Yeah, we've done it quite a few times. It was nice to do one in person, but yeah, he's always got wicked takes, and the experience that guy has just in general with his life. It's cool to get his perspective on what he thinks about things, particularly the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yes, sir. Okay, Carter Hutton in the saddle tomorrow. Don't forget to check out tonight's edition of the Leafs Nation After Dark with Zach Phillips and guest Jay Rosehill. So you're not going to miss Rosie's takes. It's just going to be after the game tonight. I like that, Rosie.
Me too. I hope there's some fireworks and lots to talk about. Most likely there will be.
We shall see, my friend. Many thanks to Mike Grinnell from Spittin Chiclets from dropping by. Everybody in the chat, you guys were great. As per usual, at the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Thank you to producer Vic. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk soon. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, You can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.